An ocean conservation career is not a straight path. I'm going to repeat that. An ocean conservation career is not a straight path. There are a lot of us who started out in marine biology or ocean conservation and said, hey, I'm going to, go to undergraduate, get my undergraduate degree. I'm going to get my graduate degree, whether it be a master's or a PhD or both. I'm going to become a professor. I'm going to do this type of studying that I want to do. I'm going to be able to travel around the world in the tropics and study sharks and study whales and study octopus and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to have a fantastic career. That's not always the case. And on today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast, I am going to tell you why. So let's start the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, and this is the podcast where you find out what's happening with the ocean, how you can speak up for the ocean, and what you can do to live for a better ocean by taking action. And on today's episode, it's going to be another one of those kind of rants a little bit where I'm not going to edit. I am just going to spew out on what's on my mind. And today we're going to be talking about your ocean conservation career. Having an ocean conservation career is really important to a lot of us. We live and breathe the ocean. We think about the ocean all the time. Last episode, I talked about how we need to talk about the ocean so much. I feel like marine biologists and ocean conservationists and having an ocean conservation career, we're thinking about almost too much in a way. And for all those of you who are in my space and in my career path and all that, we know this. We know this, that we would do this work for free, and oftentimes we do. In fact, I am doing this practically for free because I love it so much. And I remember when I first graduated, I'm like, I'll work for free. I'll do this kind of work for free. You don't have to pay me that much. That's crazy talk. Can you imagine somebody with a business degree who goes to a sales job, like, yeah, don't worry about paying me too much. I just like selling. I just like selling products or selling services or whatever they do. No, you don't do that, but we do that. As marine conservation, as ocean conservationists, we'll be like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. I'll do this for free. Oh, an internship? Sure. I actually pay you. I'll travel to Madagascar. I'll do the work and I'll have a great time. And then I'll come back and maybe then I'll find a job. That's what marine biologists are willing to do. Ocean conservationists are willing to do. We're crazy. We're nuts. And we have our own separate issues on that, but we love the ocean so much that we are willing to do whatever it is. And we think about when we just finally say to the world, I want to work in ocean conservation. I want to have an ocean conservation career. People look at us and be like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? We're like, yeah, for sure. It's going to be great. I'm going to study sharks. I'm going to study whales. I'm going to, look at invertebrates. I'm going to look at coral reefs and dive and do all that, do drone studies and, fly planes and be on a plane and be able to spot whales and all that kind of stuff. It will be wonderful. Then you look, you're down your path, you've graduated, you've done all that, and you look at yourself like, how did I get here? Maybe you're in a lab, not even working in marine biology, but working for a science lab where you're just looking at water quality and soil samples and you're just doing that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's a great job, but it's not what you expected. Or you end up working in a bank, or you end up working somewhere else because you couldn't get that job because it's really difficult to get a job, as we all know, right? In any sector, including the ocean conservation career, maybe more so. And there's a lot of things that are causing that. It's, less funding, more people in the industry, like in the field. There's lots of things that are doing it. Just the way the world works today is not the way the world worked a while ago. When you graduate from university, from your undergrad, doesn't mean you're going to get recruited right into government and work within government for 50 years and then retire. No, that doesn't happen as much as it used to. It rarely happens. I remember when I first started, I saw people retire after 50 years, getting that 50-year certificate because they've worked for the government for so long. And that was great. That was awesome. I was like, I can't wait to do that. And then I'm in there for like 6 years, then I'm out, for my own reasons, but there are other people who are doing different reasons as well. Because the way it's set up is you're not always full-time. Sometimes you're full-time but not permanent. Some full-time on a contract or just a regular contract. Sometimes you're in the building, sometimes you're not. And that's just government. Doesn't mean that like all the other industries are different. Nonprofit organization will pay you less, but you maybe do more fulfilling work and more conservation work, but it may not be as fulfilling as you expected it to be. There's a lot of different things that happen when you follow an ocean conservation career. And a lot of people just think, like I said at the beginning of the show, that, you do your schooling, whether it be undergraduate and graduate or just undergraduate, but say you used to graduate with a PhD, you become a professor, and then you're like, hey, I've made it. I've done it. But then you don't get tenure, and then all of a sudden you're an associate or an assistant professor forever, and you may not attain that dream forever, and maybe you leave because you didn't get that tenure. and you know it's not permanent, and then eventually you're going to have to leave, or what you're working on, what you're interested in, doesn't benefit the university like you thought it would, or like they thought it would, so you part ways for whatever reason, or you just don't like being a professor. That can happen too. There's so many different things that can happen, and you will, and sometimes it's with your career, sometimes it's outside, sometimes it's a personal thing, and you have to make a pivot. You have to make that decision of whether you're going to pivot into a new role, a new career, a new industry, a new field, or you're going to stay in the same one, and you may or may not be happy at. You have to make those decisions. And at the time, those are probably the biggest decisions that you're going to make, and it's going to essentially, mold the rest of your career down the road. And you don't realize it at the time, but it will. And that could be for good or for bad. And truthfully, I never think it's bad. I always think with the decision you make, whether you think it's good or bad, or you regret some of the decisions or not, that's the path you're taking. That is your path, because you've made those decisions. Those are your decisions to make. I've made decisions too that drastically changed my career. When I first graduated I first graduated my undergrad, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but at the end of that undergrad, I met the love of my life, who is now my wife. And we had very different thoughts of what we were going to do when we grew up. I was going to be a marine biologist. I was going to travel the world. I was going to live in different places, maybe in the US, maybe Canada, on the coastlines, away from my family who's in Ontario. She grew up thinking that she was going to stay close to her family in Ontario to help raise the kids and so they can get to know their kids and their family. And I was like, okay, what do we do? Right? We're like, we love each other. We want to be together, but we have two separate paths for careers. And I've told you at the beginning, marine biologists, we love our career. We live and breathe our careers. Why I'm sitting here at 9:00 at night in my office talking about marine conservation careers or ocean conservation careers. I do this because I love it. Right? It keeps me connected to the ocean. But I had a decision to make. We both had a decision to make. Do we separate paths? Right? Do we not get married? And do we go separate paths and we follow our careers and follow our lifestyle? Or do we stay together, raise a family, and we go through that? Over time, we made those decisions, and we made the decision to raise a family. We went out to Nova Scotia, right? We lived in Halifax. I went to Acadia University, got my master's, said to my girlfriend, who's my wife at the time, said, hey, give me 2 years. Let me finish this. We'll stay out here 2 years. It'll be a cool adventure, fun adventure. We'll talk about it forever. And then we'll come back to Ontario and we'll see what happens. When I got out there, I got offered to do a PhD out there again. So that would be another 4 more years out there. But I promised, I said, 2 years, we'll come back. We did that as a decision, as a couple, as partners. Came back. I said no to the PhD. My supervisor was like, are you crazy? This doesn't happen all the time. I'm like, I know, but I made that decision, right? And we are a unit. We make a decision for both of us. Came back to Ontario and had our family. We were around other family, grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins. It was fun. We're still having a good time, still in Ontario. But my career drastically changed. I started to look for work in Ontario that had to do with whether it's freshwater or marine or whatever, and I had to figure out and adapt to each one of those roles. It wasn't hard to adapt. It wasn't hard to figure out. They were fun jobs, but I always wanted to stay close to the ocean. Hence why I started this podcast and I started this communication business, Speak Up for Blue and Media Communications. This is why I started it. And do I make a ton of money at it? No. But when people ask me what I do, I'm a marine biologist. I'm a marine conservationist. I'm a science communicator. That's what I would say, even if I'm not my full-time job and what I'm getting paid for is not. I work almost full-time on this podcast. I could argue that I work to 6 to 8 hours, sometimes more, a day on this podcast, right? And on my efforts for science communication and what's coming down the pipeline. I'm working very hard, and I can't wait to share that with you because it's going to include you, the audience. And I'm looking forward to that. But that's the decision I make. That's my pivot. That was my pivot this whole time was, hey, I made this decision. I had to pivot. And that means I had to do different jobs, like my full-time jobs with a software company right now. Right? That's what I did for the last 5 years. I'm on my 6th year doing this. That's what I did. I loved it. It's still fun. I find I'm learning from that and I can apply it towards science communication. I can apply it towards marine conservation. Little things that I pick up, and it's benefiting me in my decision. Was it the best decision for my career to do it from Ontario? Probably not. I could have probably lived in some pretty cool places other than Ontario, but I love Ontario. I love Southern Ontario. Wherever I've had the very much of a privileged life to travel, and I always love coming home. There's something about it. I always love coming home. So, look, we can't all make the decision. This is my pivot. This is the decision that I made, and I own it, and I love it. I love the decision I made. But I want people to realize that, and I wanted the kids that I presented in front of last week to realize that there will be times where you have to make decisions, whether there be for personal reasons or professional reasons. You never know if you're working at a job and you really like it, but then this other opportunity comes up and you're offered this position. You're like, do I change? Do I not? I really like it. And whatever decision you make, I always told them, it's a right decision. It's your decision. You may not love what's on the other side of the fence, but you decide to go there, so you have to own it. You may come back, you may not, who knows? But you tried it and you made that decision. I think that's the right path for you. It's like, this is a decision that I made to stay in Ontario. That was the right path for me. And so it doesn't matter what decision you make, as long as you make those decisions, and you will have to make those decisions. But realize that conservation is not a linear path. The ocean conservation career is not a linear path. It meanders, just like a fish will meander. It's not a straight line. You have to realize that. And it could be for a number of different reasons in your lifestyle. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Your life will go up, have ups and downs, and that's okay. Right? That's life. And we have to deal with that whenever it hits us. That's what we have to deal with. And sometimes you have control over decisions. Sometimes you don't have control over those decisions. And that's okay. But having an ocean conservation career is not a straight path. It is meandering, and you have to meander with it. You have to learn to adapt to it. You have to learn to be curious. A lot of the episodes that I work with Dr. David Ebert on the Beyond Jaws podcast, we interview people who have had these illustrious careers, published like huge publication numbers, very, very distinguished scientists, of all ages. And they've all had very different paths, all unique. But none of them have really been straight. You know, that's usually like the luck of the draw. Not to say that they didn't work hard for it, but it's just, that's the path that they loved. But a lot of other people have kind of gone in and out, whether they've worked somewhere else like I have, or they worked on different animals, and they did that because they had questions that they wanted to answer as a scientist, as a conservationist. Right? They want to work on different files and stuff like that, different topics. They did that, so they made those decisions. So that was meandering. But it doesn't always happen that way, and I wanted you to know that that's okay. I know this is kind of a weird episode to just be like, hey, Andrew just came to me telling me that life's weird and there's lots of ups and downs, and you know your path is not going to be straight, but it's okay. Because it's not going to be straight. It's going to happen. You're going to think it's wrong. And you're going to think you're alone. You're the only one who does it, and everybody else that has those careers. When you look at on Instagram or on TikTok, and they're out in the ocean and the tropics and all that, and you're looking at them, and you're like, wow, that's a great life. And that's, yeah, I hope they have a great life. I hope they're enjoying what they do, but that's not always what you're going to be doing. You know, not everybody can work in the tropics. Not everybody can work in the Arctic or in the Antarctic or in temperate environments like in Canada or northern US or Europe. But we all love what we do. We all love the animals that we work with, right? Because we're always curious. Whether you're a conservationist or a scientist, you're curious. And the work that you do contributes to the overall ocean conservation and protects the ocean. And I think that's important. I think we need that. It's something that we absolutely have to have. If we don't have that, then we don't really have a career. You know, you're not having fun. You can still have fun. You can still earn a good living and look at how much you earn. And you can still look at the lifestyle that you want to support with the money that you're earning. Those are very important things, but always realize that your career path, your ocean conservation career path will meander. It's not going to be linear. It's very rare that it's going to be linear. So I hope you're okay with that. If you're going through a tough decision, you want to run it by somebody, feel free to contact me. You can DM me on Instagram at How to Protect the Ocean. That's at How to Protect the Ocean. And of course, you can go to speakupforblue.com, find out all the other stuff that I do. My contact is on there as well. If you want to email me, you can do so. And of course, don't forget to go to YouTube. If you're on already, you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell to find out all the other episodes that we're going to be doing. I've got some other stuff going for YouTube that I'm planning on implementing very, very shortly in the next month or so. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. So don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. And I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, from the True North Strong and Free. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.